morning, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Dobrý den.
Good day to everyone.
Hello, my name is Justus.
And my name is Elvis.
Good morning.
I would like to start by thanking the European Parliament for hosting us here today.
Thank you very much. Good morning to all.
It's great to be here in the European Parliament, and it is an unforgettable experience for us. So we hope to come in handy for the prosperity of Europe.
We are here because we are curious about you, and we are curious about the ideas and thoughts that you have, and we are really excited to share our ideas and opinions with you.
In these complicated years, our contribution is very important in order to defend and to improve the institution that ensured us the longest period of peace and stability ever seen in our continent.
And that is why we think it is so important to gather students at meetings like this,
to show that we are part of the world and that we do not want to close our eyes to what is happening around us.
and we think that together we can overcome barriers.
Darmo chodzisz, darmo ku nam kráčaš, darmo síčiš myčky, vo vodičke máčaš, darmo síčiš myčky, vo vodičke máčaš.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tibor Szanyi. I'm a Hungarian member of the European Parliament, and for a couple of minutes I'm going to be your host here in the European Parliament's plenary hall in Strasbourg. Honestly, just looking around and seeing so many young people here, I think this is one of the nicest dreams of the European citizens, to have so many young people in the European Parliament's plenary. So welcome, and let's hope that some of you, or many of you, are going to become one day a real member of the European Parliament. Currently, you are a member of the European Parliament for one day.
Does it concern you that when observing the statistics of the Brexit vote, the majority of students voted against it, meaning that the result was decided by the elder generation? And does the EU plan to address this problem, as the youth actually wanted to stay in the European Union? And it's probably a result of the elder generation who weren't really aware of what the EU was. Thank you.
Truly, yes. We had all these notices, these news from various parts of Britain, especially from London, where quite a lot of young people are living, and definitely the Londonese were the most surprised on the next day after Brexit. But it is a common responsibility. True that those who were decisive in this referendum were especially people living in the countryside, being at an age of over 50, and in most cases males. So I think that this showed one of the greatest weaknesses of the European Union, namely the institutions' communication to the external world. What the Parliament is doing, what the various other institutions are doing, is not sufficient and not adequate at all compared to the waves of really fake news, what are spread by the various papers. I think that in some places, especially in the most abundant places, you don't have real access even to internet, or you don't get a number of journals and news possibilities, including TVs. Just very, very, very limited sources. And consequently, if after a certain while, after even decades, you just confront with all those crazy, idiotic news of the European Union, I mean, after a certain while, you tend to believe them. Anyhow, I think, and this is what we are pressing also, that the institutions should have a much more vivid, a much more intensive communication work about themselves. And it's not a shame if they communicate even the failures. It's not necessarily, the news shouldn't be necessarily only the glorious big things, that we achieved this, we achieved that. Okay, fine, let it be well balanced, okay. People won't feel bad of this. Anyhow, I think that many more efforts should be done in order to avoid similar situations, and this is why I told you that it's really some of the best hopes of this continent to count on the young people. But in this case, the young people should go out to vote.
So, as you mentioned, if the English leave, but they stay in, and as we can see and hear from the news, they try to keep the advantages and try to leave disadvantages to the EU. And is it fair for EU? And can this strange relationship be maintained for a longer time with the United Kingdom? Thank you.
I agree. I agree with you that this kind of attitude is perhaps not the most elegant way of doing this exercise. On the other hand, and this is what makes things even more complicated, you know, the European Union's negotiators are having the conviction and the task even the legal task, to protect the interests of all European Union citizens. And during the negotiations, the British citizens are considered as European Union citizens. Consequently, the European negotiators are having a double task, namely not just preserving the rights and interests of the remaining 27, but also those currently living in Britain. Try to imagine how difficult such a situation is. But this is the legal situation. Nobody says, I wouldn't say nobody, but just very few say, which is part of the game, that the negotiators, even in the very last hour of the very last day available for negotiations, which is 29th of March 2019, even in the last second, the British may stand up and saying, look, fine, it was a good joke, but let's forget it. And we are going to remain members of the European Union. Well, that's weird. I wouldn't say that this is going to be the most probable outcome. But still, the option exists. But coming back to the heart of your question, I would say that, or reiterate again, the fact that the best offer is membership. Consequently, I'm absolutely sure that the Brits are going to miss a big bunch of opportunities and possibilities after concluding the negotiation talks. So I dare not to say that they are going to take all the advantages, but staying out. No, that won't be the exercise. It would be. It will be a bit painful for them, especially for the companies and for the industry.
I think we all agree that Brexit actually occurred due to misinformation and out of wrong agendas being transferred around Britain. So with this in mind, is it possible to call for another referendum in Britain at this moment, or is it a hopeless case from their end, I guess. Thank you.
Well, I share your trust, and I could even promote such an initiative, namely to organize a second referendum, but obviously it's not upon me. I don't have a say in this question, just like a normal European Union citizen. But again, I can tell you that it has, I mean, if we go on up to the end of the negotiations, say 2 years of negotiations, it's not useless, because point by point we are going to see the difficulties, even the craziness of the situation emerging. In order not just to talk about it, but in order to feel it, to have it as in front of your eyes, it's really useful to pass point by point on with the negotiations, just to see how difficult, even how impossible these things are. And after, not only the negotiators, but I do believe that there is going to be a more or less correct press coverage on this procedure. When people, I mean, including the British people, will see that point by point, day by day, week by week, what kind of mess is just emerging of this whole complex, maybe they will have a good mood to have another referendum. And I'm positive also, because according to the British legislation, when they entered the European Union, there was no say by the British Parliament. It was just a so-called royal prerogative, which is a kind of tool in the hands of the British Prime Minister. So the British Parliament had no say when the United Kingdom entered the European, or accessed the European Union. Now, the legal solution could be more or less the same, that the government, and this is the British government's will, they want to exit the EU without asking the Parliament. But now, even during this very week, the British Parliament, which has quite a lot of autonomy, the British Parliament decided that they want to have a final say in this whole process. And even, I don't exclude that the British Parliament will say no to the exit. It's possible. And there will be another vote here in this Parliament. Because if you want to agree on Brexit, the exit agreement has to be voted on in this plenary. And I'm very, very doubtful if it's going to be a smooth exercise. If, for instance, people, say your predecessors, the current members of the European Parliament, will be not satisfied with the agreement reached, well, I could imagine that this Parliament may also say no to the, not on the exit, but no on the agreement.
We have talked about education, mostly on two layers, again, about the young people and old. What we believe is that first we should implement ecology into the modern education system. We should include it as part of all subjects, not a separate subject, because individual subjects might create an aversion with some students towards the theme. So, how will this affect the people if we implement it? The young, we believe, will actually be more interested. And also another idea that we proposed for the young was the creation of green projects for schools, projects funded by the European Union in order to better the children's understanding and to give them creative freedom and to give them the opportunity to express themselves and their ideas on how they could help nature. What we proposed for senior citizens is that we should basically scare them with numbers. What I mean by this is that show them what they are actually doing when they are not caring about the environment, when they are not recycling. We should show them how many species are actually dying every day simply because companies and themselves are not actually being careful. What we have concluded for both young and senior citizens is that we should also show them how practically they can help. How they could help with recycling, how they could help in their local area. This is what we have concluded about education.
And of course, we discuss the hate speech, which we actually face as youngsters living in the 21st century. We also discussed how we need to clarify and actually give information to the citizens, and also have a definition, a certain definition of hate speech. So we need to first define what actually hate speech means in order to provide our citizens from any harm. So we did that, and we also give an example what we're doing, what we should do in order to protect our citizens by restricting hate speech. One of our colleagues also mentioned that we should persuade more strict laws and orders. So one of them actually gave us an example that we should take the right of voting of one of the members who is actually percussing that law.
We think that EU should help the developing countries in two crucial points, that is preventing corruption and helping to form a strong political structure. That is because the problems of theirs become eventually ours. We could saw that pretty clear in the refugee crisis. To remain or establish peace, we should help them but not affect them in terms of trying to control them or their governments. We would like to help them with education and funding so they can develop their own infrastructure. Crucial is that they won't become depending on us. We would like to help them with sending some experts or volunteers to advise and educate them in political and economical sense. For example, if they're establishing any companies, they should know how to cooperate them, how to guide them, and what to do with them. Also, financial aid will be depending on how this money will be used. For a term, we would like to have some reports where the funds were spent on, and whether they have used the money efficiently. If they wouldn't do so, we would cut the funds after a while, but not, of course, at the moment. The strong point in our discussion was also the internal development, because we cannot help the others if we are not stable. We would help our development with rewards for innovative people and their original ideas. We should also keep in mind that European Union is crucial, and our help to others is not unlimited.
Plutôt que toujours passer comme les bons généreux à...
Well, I think, we obviously want to come to the financial assistance of developing countries, but, the Good Samaritan, but I think we should stop pillaging their natural resources and stop thinking they depend on us financially. I think if we stopped taking everything that they had, then perhaps they'd be able to stand on their own feet, perhaps.
We discussed the school system. We would try to standardize the final exam, but we decided that we wouldn't make it mandatory. Only the students that want to study abroad and want something more from the education and education system would have to take the test. This way, we wouldn't force everyone to take it. This standardization would result in an easier country crossing when applying to universities, because everyone would have results based on the same test. Namely, if someone from Bulgaria now wants to go to the university in France, they often come across an obstacle of translating all the documents and general certificate of secondary education to French or English language. With the final exam standardization, the factor of translation would be eliminated, because it could be written in all the official languages of the European Union. We would also impose some scale that could compare the European final exam and the national final exams, so the universities would have an easier doing when deciding who are they going to consider, and also that foreign students would have the same potential to be accepted as the citizens of that country. With this implementation, individual countries would probably also strive to give the pupils the same level of education so that everyone would have the same chance to pass the European final exam.
Speaking from a general perspective, we got to an agreement with the majority of our group in the case of the role Europe should have with this case of migration and integration. We propose that the European Union should help the migrants and act quickly in integrating and educating both locals and foreigners, promoting a cooperation between both of them, as in gathering families, for example, or organizing meetings, giving the people the chance to interact, always promoting respect. Understanding the difference of immigrants and the refugees is essential for us. We suggest a fair division of refugees through EU countries, avoiding flows through just the directly affected countries, as a way of diminishing the problems. Finally, we ask for your humanity, for these people whose human rights are not respected. Do not be moved by fear. Thank you.
If you look at how the refugees have been shared out in Europe, you'll find some countries, top of the list, Sweden, Germany, even France, who have taken in a lot of refugees. And the result of that is that a lot of refugees try to get into those countries, and that perhaps motivates people to flee because they see quite clearly that these countries will take them in, and that is a good thing because I think, we're responsible for showing tolerance.
Final point, and which mostly all people in the group agreed upon, is removing university fees and increasing subsidization. So in certain countries, this is already taking place. So in certain countries, we don't have to pay for university, and actually the government pays us a small amount to sustain us. However, we said that this should be implemented all over Europe, and the funds for this should come from the European Union. This will not only encourage more students to continue working and hence get enough qualifications to get a job, but it will also remove the gap between the economical classes. So people who are poor won't have a problem to go study in a nice university, while the rich people don't have any problem and they end up with the job and the poor people don't. It will eliminate all these discriminations.